Today we welcome the inspirational Martine Barons, who discovered her sporting talent in powerlifting at the incredible age of 63. And within only 8 months, she'd qualified for the British, European and World Championships, where she went on to win all 3 competitions. Martine will talk to us about how she discovered her talent in powerlifting, how important it is to see representation for women of all ages in sport, and what she's got her sights set on next. Welcome back to the Sports Story podcast, where today we are joined by the inspirational Martine Barons. Welcome, Martine. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. How are you today?
Very good, thank you. Yourself?
Yes, perfect. So we're going to get straight in and we're going to take it back. So can you give us a bit of a timeline of your life and sort of the things that you've done leading up to today?
How far back do you want me to go? That's a very big question. We could be here for 3 hours.
Where did you start career-wise?
So I started my career in accountancy.
Okay.
And then I had my family. And I was full-time at home, 20 years, bringing up 3 boys. And when the youngest went to secondary school, I decided, well, this was the time when I wanted to go back to work, but I didn't want to go back to accountancy. And I had decided that I would like to be a teacher. The reason I'd done that is because I'd worked part-time voluntary for an AIDS charity, going to schools, doing sex and relationships education. And I kind of felt comfortable in the classroom, and I thought this was something I could have a career change. And obviously, once you have children, you're interested in education, that kind of thing. The only thing was that at school they told me I couldn't do A-level maths because I would never cope, and I wanted to be a maths teacher. So first of all, I had to go to my local college, in my 40s by now, to do A-level maths. And every time I found a new topic and I was struggling with, I could hear this teacher's voice in my ear saying, you'll never cope anyway. Long story short, I did get to my A-level and I went to university. And when I was at university, I got sidelined in some sense because I discovered that you can use maths to make people's lives better. And I had no clue at this point.
No.
Complete paradigm shift. You can use it to develop vaccination strategies so that even if you haven't got a vaccine for everyone, you can protect the whole population. You can use it to design road networks so that the traffic flow is optimal, and all these kinds of things. And I thought, well, this is really exciting. And so I kind of switched on to the research track at that point. I got my first class degree and I saw an advert for a doctoral training centre at Warwick. And I applied and I got a place. And so the first year is a master's degree and then there's 3 to 4 years of PhD. So I got my PhD at the grand old age of 52.
Gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You really went back to uni.
I went for the first time. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. I'd done an HND before, which is kind of like a bare pass degree equivalent.
Sorry, I'm just in awe. I'm just sat here like, it's so interesting. What an incredible background and just getting back into education.
Yes, I have a bit of a theme of doing things late in life, as we're going to come on to.
Age is just a number.
Exactly.
No, it really is. How did that feel going back as a mature student?
It didn't bother me, but it was interesting because, of course, I was old enough to be the parents of everybody else in the class, pretty much. So I had to work extra hard and be very mindful of building a kind of relationship that I wanted as a classmate,
Yes.
and getting them to not see me as the funny old person in the corner. And partly I did this just by being friendly, and maths is not the easiest subject, and all of us get stuck at some point. But I kind of offered to help people where they were stuck and I knew how to do it. And then I was able to ask them to help me. And we kind of built quite a nice rapport. It was a relatively small course. I think there were 50 of us,
Oh, that's nice.
in our particular cohort. And we got to know each other quite well. And they even asked me out clubbing with them.
Wow, did you go?
I did.
You did?
I had never been clubbing before. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. The other big issue for them, not only was I old enough to be their mummy, but I'm also teetotal.
Okay.
Because I had a close encounter with alcoholism early in my teens. And so some of them were very nervous that not only was I coming out with them old enough to be the one, but I also wasn't going to be drinking, so I would know exactly what they'd said and remember everything.
Report back on Monday.
But I was completely discreet about it. I mean, they were good enough to invite me out. Some of the people weren't comfortable going out unless I was there. And yeah, it was lovely. And because I had 3 sons, I'd never had the kind of like getting ready to go out clubbing, and they did my hair and they took me shopping.
That's so nice.
And so they're absolutely delightful young people. And yes, it was lovely to be included in that way.
Oh, that's lovely. So you went on and got your doctorate. That's...
Yes, I did. Yes.
That's tough.
Yes, it is. But, you know, the thing it teaches you is to keep on going when there appears to be no progress. Turns out that's quite an important sporting talent as well, really, or skill, should I say. Yes.
For sure.
So at the incredible age of 63, you discovered a talent that you never knew that you had with powerlifting, deadlift, bench press. Can you talk us through that journey and how you discovered it? I know you briefly have told us off camera, but for our listeners,
it's nobody's more surprised than I am. Let me just put that out there. This is very surprising. This time last year, I had never picked up a barbell in my life. So I had a new member of my team. So I run the Applied Statistics and Risk Unit at the University of Warwick. So it's I do my own research, but I also interact with business, government and industry to bring cutting-edge research from the department to business and government and industry solutions to their problems. So that's where I sit. That's what my day job is. And I have a team of people with me to help do that. And I had a new team member. And it was on her CV when I interviewed her that she'd been a personal trainer for 10 years. And as you do, you say, oh, we'll go to the gym sometime. I'd just recently joined the gym because Pure Gym in Stratford had opened new. I'd wanted to go to the gym for about, I guess, 5 years, but the barriers to going in and looking at those scary machines, unless somebody takes you. Yes. But I thought with Pure Gym, this is my opportunity, because it's nobody else's gym. It'll be my gym too. And of course, they, instead of having the doors locked like they normally do, they had them wide open. You could just wander in and you could ask questions and then book an induction. And anyway, so I'd been going to the gym for about a year. So it was late 22 that I joined. And finally, Rashida, her name is, Rashida and I got round to going to the gym coming up to Christmas last year, so Christmas 23. And she said, and I said, I've always been frightened of the free weights because, you know, not injuring myself is a very high priority for me. So one of the people who'd done the induction said, well, if you stay on the cable machines, then your form is going to be fine. You're not going to injure yourself. It's, you know, because they kind of force you to do it correctly. So that's what I'd done. And, you know, the numbers gradually go up a little bit. So anyway, Rashida said, I'll teach you to deadlift. I was okay, well, if I've got somebody to teach me, that might be quite fun. So we ventured into the part of the gym I'd never been in before, or at least not, you know, only in passing, you know, and scuttled out again frightened. And she showed me how to deadlift, and so we gradually went up the weights, you know, and I got to 60 kilograms on my first.
That's incredible.
Wow.
See, I had no context for that.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was incredible because I have been rubbish at sport my entire life. Everything I've done, I've been the dunce of the class. I love ballet, but I'm rubbish at it. I love contemporary dance, but I'm rubbish at it. I love playing all kinds of games, you know, rounders and table
rounders,
tennis.
what throwback!
I'd do those any day of the week, right? And I'd also taken up doing the wolf run.
Oh wow! Okay.
Because that's a lot of fun. So for anybody who doesn't know, that's an obstacle run, off-road obstacle run, 10K. So that's a lot of fun. So I've now done 19 of those.
Oh, wow.
Is this in the space of a year, or was this just prior?
Oh, no, so I started just after I finished my PhD in 2023. No, 2013, yes. Then I did my first wolf run. So, you know, I just achieved my target that had been a long target, and now I've got a short target. So I started in 2013 doing wolf runs.
Wow.
So that was fun. So I got picked up to 60 kilograms, and Rashida said, "That's really good." No, you know, because I know who I am, and I'm rubbish at sport. So if I can do it, it's probably not good, right? So we went again, and we said we must go again. This was fun, and we went again middle of February. So 6 weeks later, you know, let the Christmas rush die down and find your feet. And then we kept on going up, and I managed to pick up 100 kilograms on that occasion.
Wow.
And she said, no, seriously, you're strong. You should compete. I thought, you can compete at this stuff? I had no clue. So I did, Google is my friend. And what I did, so that was on the Monday, and I did my best to Google, and I found there was going to be a competition at the beginning of March at the Barbell Training Complex in Warwick, which is not too far from me. I thought, oh, that's interesting.
Great gym.
Yeah. So I live in Stratford-on-Avon. I work in Coventry. It was kind of on the way home. So on, I think, the Thursday, I popped into the gym on the way home and said, about this competition you're running, can you tell me a few things about it? Because I'd done my best to work out what this powerlifting lark was. But the website, in all fairness, is not written for somebody coming to it completely cold. Mm-hmm. The usual journey would be you join a gym, you either get some powerlifting buddies who know more than you, or you'd have a coach who'd be able to fill in the gaps. But I was coming to it with no coach. Well, I mean, Rashida's PT, but not a specialist in powerlifting. And yes, so there was a lot of gaps. I didn't quite understand, what does this mean, wraps? I thought those are things you put around your hand, but apparently they're things you wear on your knees. Those are wraps. And so anyway, very nice guy, Elliot, was on the desk, and he was so lovely. He was just so nice. And he was very enthusiastic, even though I'm old, that I should compete. He said his mum's very strong and all this kind of thing. He said, yeah, it's really good, really good. So that kind of really decided me. Problem was, at this point, I had only done deadlift, and the competition was in 2 weeks. So I decided that was probably a little bit soon. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I thought, well, what shall I do? What shall I do? I thought, well, I wonder if there's another competition that's a little bit later that's I can get to. And there was one in Rhyl in Wales, the same week that we were planning to be in Wales for a holiday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was meant to be, wasn't it?
It was absolutely meant to
That's
be.
incredible.
So, on the day of my very first competition, I had been deadlifting for 14 weeks. I had been bench pressing for 8 weeks, and I'd been squatting for 6 weeks. Wow. So the way the competitions run, just in case anybody doesn't know, you have 3 attempts at each lift. So you have your first attempt, everybody has their first attempt, and then you've got about 10 minutes then rest before you have your second attempt, your third attempt. So it's always squat first, then bench, then deadlift. So I didn't manage to get my first squat deep enough. I managed to get my second squat deep enough. But the third one, I went heavier because I got a successful second one, and I just fell over into the spotter's arms. Oh. And then with the bench came next, and this was very nerve-wracking because I wasn't able to lift it first time. And once you've set your starting weight, you're not allowed to go down. Right. So I had a second attempt, and I had a technical no lift because I was so worried about getting it up. I forgot to listen for the command. So if you don't listen for the command, you don't get the lift. Right. So there I was, 2 lifts in on the bench. If I didn't get the third one for any reason whatever, then that would be the end of my competition.
Oh, so you don't get to progress on.
You don't get to progress. You bomb out.
Okay.
At that point, you've got to get at least one good lift in each of the categories. So this was kind of really kind of nerve-wracking, and a beautiful thing happened. One of the referees, it was about my turn to go on, and he stopped the competition. He came off the platform and he said, "Look, we know you can do this." He looked into my eyes, "Calm down, you'll be fine. Just keep everything tight, you'll be fine." And he said, and he made everybody cheer for me, and I thought, oh, this really isn't helping. I'd rather you all just went just now and let me do.
Don't watch me.
Yes, exactly. And anyway, I remembered to listen, and my body cooperated, and I did lift it up. So phew, I was still in the running. Then it was lunch break, and I decided to drop my opener for the deadlift because that experience had just really scared me.
Yeah.
I knew I could do what I was planning to do in the gym, but then I knew I could do what I had tried on the bench and failed once, and then technically failed a second time. So I put it down to 100 kilograms because I'd been lifting that since February, right? So I put it down to 100 kilograms, and then there was a funny thing. There was only one loo, and we were queuing for the loo. And there was the two of the officials were in front of me in the loo. And as soon as they got back to the table, they started calling. Well, they always call athletes in the order in which they're going to lift in terms of lightest first. So they strip off the bar, put the lightest weight on, and then you can just add weight. Of course, being new, I was the first one on, and I was still in the loo. Oh, no. I heard my name called. And anyway, finished up, dashed down, because you've got 1 minute to start your lift once they've called you.
Wow.
And I dashed down, didn't even pick up my weight belt, dashed onto the platform, picked it up, put it down again. Job done. And at that point, I had a total.
Okay.
Right? So then I was able to lift 120 the second time, and then 125.
Cool. Can I ask you, was it conventional or sumo?
Conventional.
Yeah.
I haven't learned how to do sumo yet.
Oh, I love a sumo deadlift. It's my favourite. I think it's because I've got short legs and really long arms, so I have a bit more of an advantage. Whereas conventional, I'm a bit like, oh, my arms are too long for this.
Yes.
Do you think that because it was your first competition, was it the nerves and the pressure that maybe got you a little bit with that?
I think so, and also inexperience, because I mean, I didn't have much muscle memory. I mean, I'd literally only been trying to do squats for 6 weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the ladies said to me, 6 weeks? They said it took me 6 months to learn how to squat. You've already won, you know. So yeah, and then a very surprising thing happened. I got an email saying you have qualified for the European Championships and the British Championships.
That's incredible.
Wow. That
And I
is.
thought, okay, this was exciting, if nerve-wracking. I think I should get a coach. I'd at this point picked up a couple of injuries, training without a specialist coach.
Yes.
And it was a hamstring insertion tendon, which I picked up actually at the competition. And that was like sitting on glass for 6 weeks. So I didn't want that to happen again. So I did get a coach. And I went back to Barbell Training Complex because that's the gym I knew.
Yeah.
And Pete Grove is now my coach, who's coached since just after the first competition.
Oh, lovely.
And he's seen me through all the others.
Yes.
That's incredible.
So I was going to say, so within 8 months, this has all happened. So you took British, European, and the world record in powerlifting, deadlift, and bench.
Yes, so
Yes.
a world champion,
Yes.
European champion, British champion, and also so there are records for full power, which is all 3 lifts, the total. But there's also deadlift only and there's bench press only.
Okay.
So I've got 3 world records,
Wow.
3 European records, and because I'm in the tested federation, we agree to be tested for drug use. So we're not taking drugs on our side. We're also eligible to take the records in the untested side for people who may or may not be taking performance-enhancing drugs. So I've taken those as well for the British. So I've got 6 British records.
Wow.
That's incredible.
That is incredible. What does that feel like?
Surprising. Yeah, I mean, it's lovely. It is lovely. But I mean, finally at 63, I found a sport that loves me back.
I mean, that's
So
incredible.
that's what I mean. Age is just a number, and you're
Yes.
never too late to start anything.
Do you know what's been so nice? How much you have beamed talking about this. And this is why we've created this podcast for athletes like yourself, because we just thrive off passion and just the
Yeah.
enthusiasm. And it's just, you literally like a Cheshire cat, and it's just so nice.
Well, it's been exciting. It's not something I ever expected to do. And yeah.
Go, girl.
And the first time I saw my name on the British team sheet, all the emotions.
Oh, I can imagine.
You know, I mean, think about representing your country at a sport,
Yes.
particularly somebody who's been rubbish at sport all their life. You think, oh, this is just,
Yeah.
why is this happening to me? How can this possibly be happening to me? Is that really my name? You know,
Is it a prank?
it would be. Who would find that funny? I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
I knew it was real, but it seemed so surreal.
Surreal,
Yeah.
for
Yes,
sure.
just like whoa.
So for you, what does it, like a typical week look like for you when you are training, and how do you structure your week with your coach?
Okay, so I see my coach usually on a Tuesday. Sometimes we go every other week, sometimes we go every week. It just depends on where we are in the training program. So ever since I had a coach, I've had a competition coming in the next 4 weeks. you know. So that really has driven the training. My coach has said to me very often in the latter stages of the competition, said, you really need an off season. We really need an off season, and now I have an off season, so that's great. But so my week is I tend to work at home if I can on Mondays and Fridays. I start early, finish late, and then I have a block in the middle where I go to the gym. I prefer to work in a smaller number of long blocks. That seems to work for me. It gives me a long recovery time. Being old, that's probably an advantage, but it's just how it fits into my life, really. When I was preparing for the Worlds, we were actually on holiday. So we had 2 weeks. So the first week was actually a training week, and the second week was a deload week. So when you sort of ease off the training and, you know, rest a bit to get yourself some energy for the competition itself. And it was so lovely not to have time constraints. I went to a gym nearby that my coach had recommended for me, and I had a whole 5-hour session. It was amazing. I had the best time. But at the end of 5 hours, my blood sugar tanked and I had to go home to eat something.
5 hours, that's hardcore.
But I just really like, because I mean, you know, the thing I don't like is warming up. Once you're warmed up, you can make the most of it, right? Once you've done that bit. So yeah, I don't understand people who have leg days and chest days and things. I think I have a gym day and I'm doing everything I can. You know. Obviously, when I'm working, that's probably 2.5 to 3 hours because that's all the time I have. And so I do my warm up and I work on the compounds, the deadlift and the bench press and the squat, and then I do whatever accessories I can, sort of prioritizing them. It would probably take still 4 hours to do them all, but I don't often have 4 hours, so I have to prioritize what I do.
It's incredible.
And I think when you're so passionate and you really love doing something, like the hours just fly by anyway. Time just goes.
Yeah. And the heavier you lift, the longer the rest period between them has to be. So, you know, you're doing fewer reps, and that's just how it is. And when you're getting to your 1 rep max and you're going to have a go at something, you need a good 5 minutes before you can actually do it, and then you do 1 lift. And you know, and you can either get it or you can't get it. You know what I mean? So, but you have to wait that 5 minutes to give yourself a decent chance of doing it.
Yeah.
Do you mind me asking what is your 1 rep maxes in either squat, deadlift, or bench press?
Yeah. So my record for the squat is 100 kilograms. I've done 120.
Wow.
In the gym. 57.5 for the bench is my world record, and that's the heaviest I've ever done. I did 147.5 is the record that I have for the deadlift. I did do 150 on platform, but it was a no lift. It was a 2-1 no lift because my CNS was juddering that much. You can't have negative bar path.
Yeah.
Once you lift it up, the bar has to go uniformly up. You can stop, but it was going down because I was shaking so much. So, but I was thrilled, even if it was a no lift, because I had never lifted 150 before.
So the off season is definitely needed now.
Yes.
Treat yourself.
Exactly. To some heavier deadlift.
Let's go.
Yes.
So naturally, you know, as we get older, we sort of start saying to ourselves, you know, it takes me longer to recover, or I'm not as supple as I used to be. So how do you manage those sort of injuries and soreness, either from like training sessions or coming out of a competition?
Well, since I got a coach, I've never had an injury.
Amazing.
Which is very good.
Yes.
Very, very good. And so that hasn't bothered me because basically Pete has kept me safe. Go Pete. And and in terms of muscle soreness, I only get muscle soreness when I do a new activity.
Okay.
So if I'm doing deadlift, because I've been doing deadlift since last Christmas, I never get, even if I go heavier, even if I do more reps, I don't get muscle soreness.
Wow.
So the last time I had muscle soreness was about July. Pete gave me some new accessories to try and improve the bench. That hurt for about 10 days. And then I could just up the weight, up the reps, no muscle soreness.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Wow. I wish I didn't get soreness.
Do you take any like supplements or vitamins or anything?
Well, I've been taking a multivitamin with iron for years and years because I have a tendency to be low on my iron. I used to be a blood donor and they kind of retired me because I could never pass the hemoglobin test once they put it up. So I do that anyway. Started using protein shakes after I come out of the gym. There's one in the car waiting for me because I'm hungry like that at that point. And of course creatine with my breakfast. But apart from that, I haven't changed anything in my diet.
Wow, that's incredible.
So how do you mentally and physically then prepare for a upcoming competition? Because you have said, I think there was one there where you had 4 weeks to prepare for the competition. So
there was 4 weeks between my first and my second and my third and my fourth and my fourth and my fifth.
So how?
Well, the first week after you've been in competition, you have to take it a bit easy.
Yeah.
So you're probably doing 60% of your regular max, you're just letting yourself recover a little bit. So I still do the same 2 sessions. I mean, if I compete on Sunday, I probably won't go Monday, right? Mm-hmm. I will leave it till Friday. But then you've got two weeks to really just kill yourself, basically. Do as much as you can and just really drive yourself hard.
For the listeners listening, please don't do that.
And then you have a deload week where you just don't go to the gym except for one day just to move things very lightly. So that's been the kind of program. It's just been relentless in some senses. It's been like, great, 4 weeks to the next one. And where's that one? Oh, that's Finland. Okay, I better book some flights.
You're just a machine. I love it.
So, how important is it to see representation for women of all ages in sport?
Of course it's important because we make up a good portion of the population.
Yes.
Why should half the population be missing in important things? The thing I love about powerlifting is there is a class for everybody. You have to know what your body weight is. I mean, I do intuitive eating. I was a slave to diet culture for a long time. So I don't ever weigh myself and I don't ever count calories and this kind of thing. And my weight is very stable. Well, at least my size is very stable. So I assume my weight is very stable. But I've had to start weighing myself, obviously, to know which class I'm in. But there's no real judgment. There's no judgment about that. Some people do want to do a cut to get into a particular weight class for their own purposes, and that's fine. But you can be any weight you like. You can be any age you like, because there's an age category for that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So you're lifting against people who are a similar age and weight to yourself, which makes the competition fair.
Yes.
And so the community is just lovely in powerlifting. I mean, there's a lot of negativity sometimes online. You see people critiquing things and complaining about form and things like that. But at competitions, it's just so lovely. Everybody's clapping for everyone else, and really, if somebody gets a PB, even if it's not a record, everybody's so happy for them, and we chat as we're waiting to go on and saying, this is going to be really hard for me, or whatever. I'm coming back from injury, or whatever. And we celebrate with each other, and it's just so supportive.
Yes,
it's incredible.
Community engagement is important, I find. When we used to cheer, like the just having everyone around you and everyone supporting everyone just makes such a difference.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, but you wouldn't always know that's what's actually going on at the competitions unless you'd been to one, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
when you're competing against people within a similar age category, so is that like 60 to 70, or is it 60 to 65?
60 to 65 or 60 to 64,
Okay.
and then 65 to 70. So I'm Masters 5 because I'm 63.
Okay.
So I would compete against other women who are in that Masters 5 category, and also I compete in the 90 kilogram body weight class, the under 90 kilograms. And I compete raw, which means I don't have any assistive equipment. I don't have anything on my knees. Everybody's allowed a weight belt. Everybody's allowed wrist wraps. That still counts as raw. But then there are other categories for people who have knee wraps. And there are other categories for people who lift equipped. So you can have a full-on deadlift suit, which is an neoprene suit that helps you. It makes it really hard to get down to the bar and makes it a bit easier to get up. So that, it's just a different technicality. The lift, the muscles need to be different.
Yes.
Is that a personal preference then, that you just don't want the wraps for your knees?
Again, I've just kind of come into it and I've never used them, so I lift raw. So that was just what I do. I haven't made a particular judgment about I'm going to go in this. I just haven't been in the sport long enough to think about it.
Your coach go, do this, and you're like, yep, I'll do it.
The way that you talk about the sport, though, you would think that you've been in it for years and years.
Well, there is something called a special interest. Once you get a special interest in something, you know, you really find out. I've read the rule book at least 5 times.
That's not just today.
No, that's not just today. But I read it before every competition just to make sure that I'm refreshed on it. And when I'm watching the other lifters, I'm trying to guess what the judges will say because I want to understand where the faults are and how the faults are called. You know, what faults. I mean, I've read, you know, it's one thing to read it, though. It's another thing to see it and to recognise it. So all of this is trying to absorb stuff so that so when it's my turn on platform, I can avoid the problems, you know, as much as I can. I mean, there's always something that's going to go, you know, on the day. So on Saturday, I went to the NEC. They were having the Supermasters competition. And so I was just a spectator at that one. And yeah, so it was just there was a gentleman actually who was doing a bench press, and he brought the bar down to his chest, and at that point you have to wait for the press command, and he went too soon and he put it back down, and he knew he'd done it, but I mean putting it back down was pointless because at that point he'd missed the lift, but it just in the moment these things happen. You just do it. You think that was a stupid thing to do. You know, you think, oh, I've made a mistake, I'm going to fix it, but you can't. So you can't really legislate for that. All you can do is practice as much as possible.
Yes. Do you film yourself then when you train and then send it to your coach, or is it just for maybe if you do it, for your more for?
I'm doing it. Yes, I'm doing it more now. My coach is asking me to send video. I mean, yeah, again, it's something like I'm a bit self-conscious of doing that because you know I don't look like an athlete. So, yeah, but I've got used to it. I've got my own tripod now, so everybody does it.
They do. Everybody does it in the gym now. Yeah, and I think it's quite important as well to have a look at your technique.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you feel there are enough platforms, opportunities for mature women in sports?
In sports generally, I'm not really qualified to say. We don't see that many of them, do we? And if you think about the Olympics, it's just representatives per country. It's always going to be the youngsters, isn't it? They don't have age categories for stuff. They have weight categories, but not age categories for stuff. So that, I guess, is an exclusion for older people. So we're never going to be Olympians. But there's lots of opportunity in powerlifting. That's the only thing I can say, because that's the only thing I'm involved in. I mean, at the moment, my contemporary dance class has been suspended because the school has got really busy with the youngsters. But there used to be a class for older people, and it also accepted beginners. And it was a brilliant class, and I would love to see that come back. I did ballet as well. The same school had a ballet class, but over lockdown, the numbers dwindled so that it wasn't viable anymore. So restarting that was tricky. So there's all those kind of things I would love to carry on doing. But I don't have a problem being an older beginner. It's just a case of whether the opportunities are there. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, so yeah. Can you just take a gymnastics class when you're in your 50s? I don't know.
You definitely can. We can definitely say that you can. There is always an adult class.
What age does powerlifting go up to?
I don't think there is an age limit.
Okay, that's very good.
So the oldest person competing on Saturday was 77, I think.
Wow.
So and we have seen people in their 70s winning medals.
That's amazing.
People in the 70s, and so I've got a decade at least yet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what is next for you, and do you have your sights set on any of the goals that you'd like to achieve?
Oh yes, I have stretch goals for 25 and stretch goals for 26, because I would. One thing I'd like. So the next thing I'm going to do, I have already qualified for all of the competitions next year, because I am the world champion.
Yes.
So I get a free pass. But I'm still going to do the qualifier on the 23rd of March at Barbell Training Complex. What I would really like to do, there are 5 people who potentially will lift for the first time, and I'm working on them at the moment. I would love to bring 5 new lifters to competition, even if they only do the one.
Right.
So these are people I know in my family and also at work. A couple of them are older ladies. So that would be really nice to increase that. I would like to. I've set myself a stretch target of 145 on the squat and 180 on the deadlift. Wow. I was fortunate enough to have a one-off training session with Rhiannon Lovelace, who is 3 times world's strongest woman.
Wow.
And that was extremely useful. She started off in powerlifting before she went into strongwoman. And she said to me that she believes every woman, regardless of genetics, can do a 200 kilogram deadlift. So I aim to prove her right eventually. Probably this year, 180 would be sufficient, then 200. And then there, of course, is the 1,000-pound club, which is 454 kilograms to get that total.
Wow.
That would be nice to do in 26, I think. And if I don't do it in 26, then maybe I'll do it in 27.
So nowhere near retirement yet.
No. Well,
Just begun.
Yes, exactly. A lot of my friends are retiring. You think, really, I'm just building my career, you know?
Yeah. Just getting started.
and my sports, you know.
You just mentioned there about the professional strong woman. Is that correct? What is the difference between powerlifting and then strong? Is it strong woman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or strong man. Yeah. So it's just that the particular tasks that you're given are different. So powerlifting is just squat, bench, deadlift. That's it. Weightlifting is the snatch and the clean and jerk.
Yep.
That is the Olympic lifting that you see where people have it over their heads. We never put it over our heads in powerlifting. Well, unless you count lying on a bench and pushing it away from you. In strongman, they often do deadlift medleys where you deadlift something once or twice or as many times as you can, or you go up weights and this kind of thing. It's the first person to get to the end. But they also do things like sandbag tosses or carries. They do atlas stones. They do, yokes, farmers walks, all things you see on World's Strongest Man at Christmas. That's basically it. And so it's a medley of different kinds of activities. So you still have to train for it. It's still for strength, but there are different rules. So, for example, if you're doing a deadlift in a strongman competition, you can hitch it up your thighs, but that would get you disqualified. That would get you a no lift in powerlifting. Right. So the technical requirements for the things are slightly different.
Oh, incredible. Yeah. So we've actually got to our last question. I feel like I could talk about this all night. It's just really fascinating. So what advice would you give to someone around a similar age who would love to give the sport a go?
Well, obviously, the obvious advice is do it. But it's not as easy as that, because if you're not already going to a gym, even going to a gym is hard work. It's kind of scary. Mm-hmm. So I would say if you can book yourself an induction in the gym, do. If you need a friend to go with, do that. Find somebody who will take you and get you through the door. A good coach is worth their weight in gold. Obviously, you have to be on a salary that you can afford to pay one. But they are really worth it if you can. If you can afford to go to a gym where there's a lot of powerlifters, that will give you a community, and it's a very community feel. So those are the kind of things, whatever you want to do if you're older, it doesn't have to be powerlifting. If you want to do any sport, if you want to dance, if you want to paint, don't let anybody stop you. Why shouldn't you? I mean, life is short. If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? Absolutely. And we only regret the things we never tried.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice.
Yeah.
I feel pumped and ready to go. Yeah. Right, let's go and deadlift. Let's go now. Let's go. I can probably maybe do 50. In the sumo, conventional, not too sure.
I have no idea.
Well, let's find out
Let's
then.
go.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's find out.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your incredible story with us today.
You're welcome.
We think you're incredible and you're an absolute inspiration. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Sports Diary podcast. If you like what you hear, please like, rate and subscribe.
Tune in every other Monday. You do not want to miss out on the incredible guests we have lined up for you.
I'm Demi.
I'm Nat. Bye.